Please be seated. Well, welcome everybody, and this is a special day as we approach the 80th anniversary. We're only 79 for us today, but we'll see on the media a lot of commemoration of events celebrating 80 years. And this is also significant for us in that it's the first of these series of services that we have not had a World War II veteran in attendance. So we gratefully acknowledge everything that those men and women did from many countries, and there are others in recent times who have served their countries since then. Their service continues to preserve the proud history of those men and women to whom this service is dedicated. And I'm going to read a roll call of the veterans who are still with us today. John Beecham, a mosquito pilot who is 100 years of age. Harry Camish, also 100 years, and he's a flight engineer and an evader, a successful evader. David Fox, who is 101, was a rear gunner. Ken Orman, who is also 101, and he was a Lancaster pilot. And earlier this week, we unfortunately lost George Davis, who was 101, and also a navigator, who we lost this week. So what we owe to all who have served is immeasurable. Our duty becomes ever more essential, particularly when we look around the world today. In 2024, it is clear that after almost 80 years, the dreams and beliefs which those young men and women stood for and died for has never been so fragile. And this was frequently commented on during the week of these other commemorations of their colleagues and comrades. Let every one of us every day remember and acknowledge everything that those special service people bequeathed to us. Not least being the opportunity to honour each one of them here today and into the future. Citizens, service people and nations together, defending democracy and civilization as we know it. I'd now like to acknowledge the special guests we have here today, and first and foremost, our hosts, the Auckland War Memorial Museum, and they are represented today by David Reeve, Chief Executive, and Matthew Crampton, Head of Visitor Services. And we have an apology from Catherine Hammond, who is unwell today. And also, welcome Matthew Forley and his wife Catherine, and acknowledge the support and encouragement and hospitality that their organisation has provided us, and wish Michael success in the future as he relinquishes that role later this month. And also, I now acknowledge the Honourable Paul Goldsmith, Minister of Arts, Culture and Heritage, who is here with us today, and we'll hear from him later. And is Nancy here? No. Now I'm going to break a little with tradition or protocol, as our next guest is significant and represents the unity that I mentioned a few moments ago. And that is the representative from the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany, Colonel Carsten North, the Defence Attaché to Australia, New Zealand and Fiji. Very warmest of welcomes. The British High Commission is represented by Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Dines, Defence Advisor. Representing the Australian High Commission is Group Captain Andrew Hoffman, Defence Advisor in the Royal Australian Air Force, on this side. From the Embassy of the United States of America, the Consulate General in Auckland, Sarah Nelson. From the Embassy of Belgium, Elizabeth Jacobs and her husband Andrew Healy. From the Consulate of Slovakia, the Honorary Consul General Peter T. Keeley, Officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit. From the Kingdom of the Netherlands, we have the Honorary Consul Sake Hitman. From the Royal New Zealand Air Force, Air Vice Marshal Darren Webb, member of the New Zealand Order of Merit and Chief of Air Force. He's accompanied by Warrant Officer Kerry Williams, Warrant Officer of the RNZAF, and Personal Staff Officer Squadron Leader Kirsty Coleman. The patron of the New Zealand Bombing Command Association, Air Vice Marshal Peter Stockwell, Officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit, and AFC, Air Force Cross, retired, and his wife Alison, who is in the audience today too. Group Captain Mike Cannon, Commanding Officer, the Royal New Zealand Air Force, I'll say it, that's easier, at Whanuapai, accompanied by his wife, Mrs. Gail Cannon. The Royal New Zealand Air Force Association Chairman Peter Burks and two others who accompany him. From the International Bomb Command Centre, Miriam Charlotte. From the Honourable Company of Air Pilots, Alan Boyce, Chairman, and Bill Bennett, Deputy Chairman. From the North Shore Brevet Club, we have Vern Reynolds, Les Matthews, and John Gabriel. From the Auckland RSA, representing the Auckland RSA, is Wing Commander Gordon Ray, retired. And the Air Cadet officers have been organised and led today by Flight Lieutenant Neil Thomas, New Zealand Cadet Force, Cadet Unit Commander. So welcome everybody and thank you for spending your time with us today. And now call on our President, Bruce Hewitt, to address us.
Good morning all. Ian has conveyed his words of welcome on behalf of the New Zealand Bombing Command Association, which I fully endorse. This is the first service that I can remember that we have not had a veteran present. Of our 4 remaining veterans, they are all over 100 years of age. It is not easy for them to get out and about as they used to do. They can still read the reports of the service, and I'm sure they will read them with great interest on their part. Welcome to all the families of the veterans present in attendance, and I thank you for joining us today. To everyone in this magnificent hall of memories, welcome and thank you for your attendance. I wish especially to thank the Honourable Paul Goldsmith in his capacity of Minister of Heritage, Air Vice Marshal Darren Webb, Head of the Air Force, for making times in their busy schedules to attend this commemoration. Thanks to No. 5 Squadron, who have attended today in force and provided the flag bearers for today's service. Another big thank you to the cadets of No. 3 Squadron who are assisting us today. No doubt some of you are engaged with them already, and some will be providing readings during the service. Air Vice Marshal Webb, if you can entice any of these young people into your ranks, your, or should I say our Air Force, will be far better for it. In 2012, I attended the NZBCA service in Westminster Abbey, London, where the ambassadors of Australia, New Zealand and Turkey took major roles in this magnificent service. In 2019, a high-ranking German naval officer, whose name I can't recall, attended a commemoration of the sinking of the Tirpitz in Tromsø, Norway, along with people from all over the world. Time is a great healer, and at these 2 commemorations, it served to remind me that former adversaries can now remember together with us and assist us in maintaining the peace our grandparents and parents fought for. In this spirit, I also welcome Colonel Carston North, Air Force Defence Attaché to Australia and New Zealand. And just to let you know that he has come especially to the service in Canberra to be here, so that's a major effort on behalf of him and the German government. On Thursday was the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings, which Bomber Command played important roles in assisting in what was the biggest seaborne invasion in history. At the time dawn broke on the 6th of June, Bomber Command had already worked a long day and night. There were two spoof operations, dropping a window, which is aluminium foil, in a precise manner to convince radar operators a substantial force was approaching the Park to Calais, thus diverting the German troops and resources to Boulogne and Le Havre, away from the Normandy landing beaches. Our late patron, squadron leader Lies Monroe, took part in one of these operations. And it was so successful that the shore batteries were shooting into the tin foil. A concentrated effort was made on transport, communication, radar stations, military bases, fuel installation, ammunition dumps and factories. But this took place not only in the Normandy area, but from areas right along the French coast to give little indication where the actual landings may be. I think it's amazing that such an organisation effort to get so many elements of such a large operation so well coordinated to contribute to a successful task. Even then, most crew members I've spoken to that were taking part said that we were just doing our job, humble men doing extraordinary duties. I will finish with a quote made by an American war veteran, Walter Stitt, from the D-Day landings on Wednesday in France. Many things are worth fighting for, but I wish there was a better way of doing it rather than trying to kill each other. It's due to words from a World War II veteran. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bruce. We'll now move into the reflection, which you'll see in your program, which will be conducted by our chaplain, Anne Pauls. But before that, I'll ask Cindy Tova, leading executive, Cindy Tova, to read us today's scripture reading.
Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely He will save you from the foulest snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and your heart. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys every day. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only observe with your eyes.
Thank you, that was very well read. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see so many old friends and catch up with you once, this time once every year. It's really good, so thank you. I wrote my reflection for today, the day after Anzac Day. My wife and I were getting overseas for a holiday, so I wrote it quite early. And as I was writing it, obviously Anzac Day was fresh in my mind. And like many of you, Anzac Day is a very poignant day for me. It's full of memories, maybe of, or certainly of Commonwealth war graves around the world where I've conducted services. I often think of the young men that died in a Huey crash on Anzac Day 2010. I buried that pilot of that aircraft later that week. And I think of nervous patrols I saw off some mornings in Afghanistan. War is precious friends and family members don't come home, or if they come home scarred, often scarred in ways that we don't see, but scarred nevertheless. I remember one very nervous soldier who tapped on my door quite late at night, my hut door quite late at night in Afghanistan. His patrol were going on a mission. Dawn the next morning, they had to uplift an arms cache in a village, and they knew that those particular villages were very militant, and he was very nervous about the whole thing. And so we talked about how he felt, and I assured him that he was feeling like everyone would be feeling, and it does feel. And we read from today's reading, the one that we just heard just now. He needed reassurance, and I hope he got that. And so how must it have been for the young men we think of this morning? They faced not just days, but weeks and months of sorties. Every sortie wasn't a simple patrol along a known beat. It was a deliberate penetration into the enemy's airspace and territory, where any moment they could have met a hostile aircraft or hot shrapnel. On most runs, no matter how good the planning and the weather, more often than not, some of the aircraft that took off simply did not come back home. Those brave young men perished, either in hot flames or cold sea. Imagine that, knowing that you survived, but the guys that you live with and have fun with and laugh with and are nervous with didn't make it this time. Who will it be tomorrow? How would have that played on their nerves? How did they get through? At our Anzac commemoration each year in Cambridge, we always read the reading we started with today. And at one line, as it's been read, I always think of the by command lads. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. If I had been in a slow, cold Lancaster, heading across the enemy's land to bomb their factories, I would have clung to that verse with every ounce of strength I could. Would have been the thing that gave me hope and helped get me through. We all face moments of fear, seasons of confusion. How good it is to be able to join with the Kiwi soldiers of Afghanistan or the lads of Bomber Command and draw strength from the promises and assurances of God. Promises and assurances we all need to hear. So as we continue with our commemoration and then leave today, let our resolve be to draw strength from the goodness and power of God. He will cover you with his feathers, under his wings you will find refuge. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hans. So we now move to an occasion of audience participation. You'll see we have in the program the words of our vow to thee, my country. And unfortunately, our singer scheduled for today is recovering from a trip to hospital. So I invite you to stand and we'll sing together, I vow to thee, my country. And I will not be leaving, I will be joining you. to address us.
Good morning, everybody. It's a very special welcome to the families of the New Zealanders who served in the Royal Air Force Bomber Command, and to those who honour their legacy. I want to acknowledge too the members of Bomber Command who lost their lives as a result of their service, and those who have passed since. We want to acknowledge distinguished guests, including the Vice Marshal Bruce, President. As the Second World War draws ever more distant in our memories, and as New Zealanders who experienced that war dwindle in number, it's all the more important to acknowledge their courage, effort and sacrifice. Almost 6,000 New Zealanders flew in Bomber Command during the Second World War. They served in the famous 75 New Zealand Squadron and the 487 New Zealand Squadron, and in many others. All of them were volunteers, and two of them, James Ward and Leonard Trent, were awarded the Victoria Cross. New Zealanders were involved in the longest and best known of Bomber Command's campaign, the air war over Germany, as well as the many other actions throughout the Second World War. During the Battle of Britain, in addition to the renowned efforts of fighter commands, New Zealanders in Bomber Command helped destroy some 10% of the German invasion craft, as well as damaging ports and other facilities. New Zealanders in Bomber Command included well-known squadron leader Les Munro, were involved in the Dam Busters raid in 1943, and as has been mentioned, this year marks the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion of Normandy, where New Zealanders were involved in bombing military targets in France in preparation for the landing, contributing ultimately to the liberation of France and the Allied victory. And in November we'll see the 80th anniversary of the sinking of the German battleship Tirpitz in Norway by 30 Royal Air Force Lancasters, 4 of them piloted by New Zealanders. Through many actions, New Zealanders who served in Bomber Command made a significant contribution to the eventual Allied victory, but they paid a very heavy price. Like others who volunteered to join the armed services, New Zealand Bomber Command aircrew went into their service with little idea of what they would be required to do. They had in fact volunteered for one of the riskiest and deadliest types of service. Wild weather, poor visibility, navigational error, mechanical failure, enemy fire, and the ever-present risk of being shot down over enemy territory were amongst the dangers that they faced. They dealt with cramped conditions, brutal cold, far above the ground, while working in the proximity to several tons of explosive and thousands of gallons of fuel. Oral historians have captured the words of service personnel to create a record of evidence from the individual perspective. One such interview was George Wiuripa, flying officer 514 Squadron, who described what it was like to be up there. You'd see nothing but explosions all around you and the searchlights, and as soon as we dropped our bombs, we'd get the hell out of it. If the searchlights lock on you, if one locks onto you, the whole lot lock on. You feel naked. You feel that the searchlight is going right through, and then you can see all the flak coming up at you. The New Zealanders of the RAF Bomber Command, most of them very young, suffered perhaps the highest casualty rate of any New Zealanders serving in wartime. Of the roughly 6,000 New Zealand airmen flying in Bomber Command in Europe during the Second World War, a horrific 2,157 lost their lives, and many more suffered injuries or became prisoners of war. We've recently passed the 80th anniversary of the Great Escape March of 1944, and it's worth remembering the story of flying officer or Johnny Pohe of the 51st Squadron, the first Maori pilot in the Second World War. It's a potent illustration of the danger faced by Bomber Command. After ditching his damaged aircraft in the North Sea, Pohe was captured and sent to a prisoner of war camp, Stalag Luft 3. He took part in the mass breakout, but was soon recaptured and executed by the Gestapo, along with 2 New Zealand fighter pilots, Flight Lieutenant Arnold Christensen and Squadron Leader John Williams. Leonard Trent was also part of the breakout and recaptured but survived. It would be hard for those of us who have not experienced war or conflict to conceive of the situation and the stakes people had to navigate at the heat of battle. What is clear to us through the years is the carnage of war, its horrendous impact on both service personnel and civilians. My connection with Bomber Command, my mother's uncle, Flight Lieutenant Graham Turner, who came from Mount Albert, and he flew in the RAF squadrons as a pilot, 625 and 170. He flew 31 sorties and was awarded the DFC. But the remarkable thing was that he went over there age 20 in 1943, did the 31 sorties, came back, he was 22. And I've got a 23-year-old son. It's an extraordinary thing to think about. That he went through 2 years of this crucible and then came back. And he recently died 5 years ago, an old man with a very successful business career. But I spoke to him many times late in life. And at first he intimated that he dropped only leaflets. But it took a long time before he acknowledged that it was he was involved in a very deadly and traumatic experience as a young man. But the two generations that followed him, my generation, my parents' generation, have lived in peace, relative peace. And we all know, of course, that the continuance of that peace is not guaranteed, and that we must remain vigilant now more than ever. As the New Zealand Bomber Command Association has rightly stated, commemorating must not be about glorifying war, but honouring the service and sacrifice of the service personnel. I want to acknowledge before I close the New Zealand Bomber Command Association for its ongoing support of veterans and their families, and its dedication to remembrance of the New Zealanders of Bomber Command. Remembrance is crucial if we're to learn from our past the efforts of those who have striven and suffered to lay the pathways for the present generations. We can't undo the harm of the past war any more than we can prevent all future conflicts. But together we can help ensure the service of the 6,000 New Zealanders of Bomber Command to protect the values we hold dear as a nation are not forgotten. Let's keep telling the stories and safeguard their memories for future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. I now call on Air Vice Marshal Darren Webb, Chief of the New Zealand Royal Air Force, to do business.
Tui ki te rangi, tui ki te papa, tui ki te hi tangata, ki tu piri tātana, te iwi, te mana, te reo, te mahoma, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. That means that united on the skies above, united on the ground below, united as one people. Let's come together. It's quite a fitting tribute. Honourable Paul Goldsmith, Minister of Arts, Culture and Heritage, Mr. Bruce Hibbert, President of the Bomber Command Association. Vast numbers of the diplomatic corps, and special acknowledgement to you, Carsten, I'd see you across the camera. Distinguished guests in particular, and family members of our veterans, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is an honour and privilege to stand before you today at a special Bomber Command commemoration ceremony. Although as we've heard, it's approaching 80 years since nearly 6,000 brave young men departed these shores to serve. Sadly, the passage of time does chip away at this significant contribution, and it is noteworthy that this is the first time we've not had a physical presence of a World War II veteran here. And I too acknowledge those huge hardy souls who continue to remain with us. The staggering scale of Bomber Command's contribution to victory cannot be understated. From the iconic Lancaster to the mighty Halifax, these aircraft form the backbone of Allied air power, striking fear into the hearts of the enemy and turning the tide of war. The numbers alone tell a staggering story. Over 125,000 men served in Bomber Command during World War II, with over 55,000 making the ultimate sacrifice. That's more than the entire city of Nelson, to put it into sort of New Zealand context. air training corps cadets, I'm sure they've already worked out with their advanced mathematics that that's nearly 45%, which would be great. These brave souls flew over 380,000 missions, dropping over 600,000 tonnes of bombs on those targets. Such numbers are not mere statistics, they are testament to the monumental effort and sacrifice that defined Bomber Command's role in the war. On my office wall hang citations of our 3 Victoria Cross winners. 2 of them, as we heard from the Minister, Sergeant Jimmy Ward and Squadron Leader Linda Trent, recipients of the VC for their exploits within Bomber Command. Given the award of the VC requires the highest degree of valour in the face of the enemy, it should come as no surprise that these very young men who served within Bomber Command sacrificed more than most through countless missions against impossible odds. Among the myriad of units that comprise Bomber Command, perhaps none shine brighter than our own illustrious 75 Squadron. With the emblem of the soaring eagle, they epitomise the spirit of courage and determination that characterised all who served under its banner. Yet, as the numbers themselves dictate, sadly many other and equally as compelling stories are left untold. And as the current and temporary custodian of our Air Force legacy, it's an important part of my job to keep these memories alive. It is a truism that we continue to stand on the shoulders of those who have gone before. And with the kind permission of Sally Crook, who's with us here at Bomber Command Association member, I'd like to recount some reflections of lesser known events. These aren't Sally's stories per se, rather they belong to each man and each crew involved, giving us just a glimpse into the sense of their desperation and loss. Some of you who read the Bomber Command newsletter may recall these events, remembering the quiet stories of our 7 Squadron New Zealand, but they deserve to be retold. And Sally's promised that if I get a bit stuck on this, she'll come and help me out. Sally never met her granddad, Sergeant Greg Whitwell, a pilot with number 487 Squadron, but rather learned of his bravery as a young girl researching her family tree. He had earned a distinguished flying medal during the war. On the 20th of April 1943, Sergeant Whitwell was flying Ventura W for Willie on an operation to the outro marshalling yards in Bologna. On the approach to their target, the cockpit was hit by an anti-aircraft shell, shattering his upper left arm. Somehow, he managed to keep flying. The crew dropped their bombs in the target area and they turned for home. Knowing they would not make it back to Methwold, they diverted to Lympne, and Sergeant Whitwell made a forced landing there with 1 arm and 1 engine on fire. Only 2 weeks later, fortunately for him, he was still in hospital. His squadron would have suffered horrendously on the Operation Ramrod 16, a raid that is now well known. On the 3rd of May 1943, 12 crews from 487 Squadron would leave Methwold at 16:43 hours, the target being a power station in Amsterdam. 1 crew returned to base for the faulty escape hatch shortly after takeoff. The rest of the story becomes a gut-wrenching tragedy. One by one, the remaining crews were shot down and only 1 Ventura returned home. Of the 44 men who had successfully departed Methwold, only 4 made it back to England, and only 2 back to base. 28 men lost their lives and 12 were taken prisoner of war. The 1 Ventura that made it home was badly damaged, with the 2 crew members severely wounded. All the crew were deservedly awarded either the Distinguished Flying Cross or the Distinguished Flying Medal. And Squadron Leader Leonard Trent, as we know, and as mentioned, after 2 years as a POW, was later awarded the Victoria Cross. It's hard to imagine exactly what it would have felt like for those at Methwold, waiting, hoping and then knowing that those crews were not coming home. All of them, the ground crew, the airmen, the support staff, senior officers, had lost 40 of their friends. Friends whose stories and names all these years later deserve to be remembered. We think of Andrew Coots and William Goodfellow, lost over the ocean and not found. We think about what might have happened in the moments leading up to that. We think of Jack Sharp trying to bail out of his burning aircraft and not being able to get through the escape hatch. He was the only one of his crew to survive. We think of Stuart McGowan and Ivan Illich. We think of McGowan and Canadian observer Ernest Thornburg scrambling to get their wounded friend and air gunner Ivan Illich into his parachute and then pushing him out of their aircraft. Saving his life first and intending to follow, but not being able to. And we think of the crew's wireless operator Cyril Smith, who was a kind man from Miller's Flat. We think of pilot Terry Taylor, fighting with a destroyed Ventura to make a crash landing in a garden with burnt hands and his controls on fire. Though all were injured, 3 of the 4 crew survived, quite possibly owing to his skills of crash landing near the aircraft. We think of Owen Foster, giving all he had to fly with the nose of his aircraft blown off and the rest barely holding together, trying to give his crew the best chance possible. We think of Tom Penn and Tim Warner. Tom Penn battling desperately to hold on to his mortally wounded friend as the plane crashed and then sank in the sea. We think of him and Foster and the wireless operator, all injured, trying to stay afloat for hours afterward until eventually being picked up by a boat and sent to a prison of war. We think of Thomas Bainton, a mechanic from Auckland. He had completed 4 months' service with number 21 Squadron before being posted to 487 Squadron, and this would be his 11th op with him. He and his crew all lost their lives in this operation. We think of Stanley Heyman, known as Rusty. On a previous mission, his aircraft had come down in the sea. He had been the only one of his crew to survive, and he too spent hours in the sea waiting for rescue. After a few days in hospital, he returned to base, and just a month after this ordeal, he was back in operations. Heyman and his crew did not survive the operation to Amsterdam. They are buried next to Stuart McGowan and Cyril Smith. We think of Stanley Kosher, who was always smiling in photographs. He had served in 2 other squadrons before joining 487. 2 of his crew have remarkable stories of survival. One of them reported seeing Stanley opening his hatch as the Ventura burned and broke up in the sky, but he did not survive. We also think of the one crew that made it back to England, of Johnny Starkey and Lawrence Neal, who was badly injured himself, caring for their severely wounded crewmate down on Turnbull putting out fires, and trying to free some of the bombs that were still trapped in the aircraft. And of Arthur Duffel, fighting to get 4 of them home in a barely flying Ventura, utterly ruined but still loaded with bombs, jammed in places and threatening to explode in what was highly likely to be a rough landing. And for those men who did not get back, but managed to survive the first round of horror, we think of further inhumanities they had to endure as prisoners of war. There are plenty of names not mentioned here, and they will all have their own stories that are just as important as these ones. Sadly, there are many that were never able to be told. As I reflect on the operating environment in 2024 for the NZBCA and the legacy of Bomber Command, we give thanks to the fact that we're not faced with the same situations that confronted those 20-year-old youngsters on the other side of the world. Today we continue to benefit from their courage and sacrifice, both in the freedoms that we enjoy and the enduring relationships built on trust and commitment. But today we also remember that our Air Force needs to be ready and resilient to face whatever challenges that might suddenly materialise, from a complex combat environment through to a regional natural disaster. Tasks still carried out by the same young, dedicated and capable New Zealanders 80 years later. Let us honour the memory of all who served in Bomber Command, past and present, and pledge to carry their legacy forward with pride and with reverence. Their stories remind us that behind every statistic lies a human face, a story of courage, sacrifice and resilience. They remind us that freedom is not free, that it is paid for with the blood and the sweat of everyday humans asked to do extraordinary things. Lest we forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Marshal. I now like to call up Cadet Sergeant Aaron Vermey, who will shortly read us the Ode in Te Reo, and Cadet Corporal Cameron Moffat, who will follow that immediately with the English version. So if they will come up in preparation, and while I do that, I will ask you all to stand.
Taino i te arana mai i te ata. Ka maumaharu tonu tātou ki a rātou. Ka maumaharu tonu tātou ki a rātou.
They shall grow not old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will now join in the national anthem, which is the program. Music break.
To all gathered I say, go forth into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast that which is good. Render to no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the afflicted. Honour everyone. Love and serve God and others, and rejoice always in the blessings of God, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, now and always. Amen.
May party take up their positions. We will now go to the last place of our meeting. call you up individually. So the first three is from the New Zealand Bomber Command Association. Please do it. Please. Now the Honourable Paul Goldsmith, the Minister of the New Zealand Government. Third time lucky, on behalf of the Royal New Zealand Air Force, the Vice Marshal Darren Webb, Chief of Air Force. On behalf of the British High Commissioner, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Dines, Defence Advisor. Representing the Australian High Commission, Group Captain Andrew Hoffman, Defence Advisor for the Australian Air Force. Representing the Embassy of the United States of America, Sarah Nelson. Representing the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany, Colonel Carsten Norton. From the Consulate of Slovakia, P.T. Curie, no? Not here, okay. Next then is the Chief Executive of the Auckland They agree. And Mark Hampton is happy to lay. It's on behalf of the Auckland Water and Water Museum. And from the International Bomber Command Centre in Lincoln, Miriam Shah. And as a representative of the Auckland RSA, Wingheimer Auckland Ram. From the Honourable Company of Airports. Oh, no. Yeah, that's true. And from the RNZAF 75 Squadron, Jim Turner and Alan Boyce. Seems we have a second one for the Australian High Commission. Either that or Bruce, you can play on their behalf. We have some copies here if any service members or family members from servicemen would like to lay a copy. Take a moment to do so. Otherwise you can make them afterwards. We have several, so if anybody would like to do that. Ladies and gentlemen and guests, that concludes the service for today. I would like to make special mention today of Peter Wheeler and Jonathan Pope, who are both members of the New Zealand Volunteer Association, and due to their health they have been unable to attend, but we need to acknowledge the work that they have done in making this possible every year for the last maybe 10 years or more. So we appreciate the effort they put in, and I'd like to thank Neil Thompson and James Coxey, who have organised the cadets and the flag ceremony for today. And for those of you who are first-time visitors here, you may like to have a look at the monument that has been created with stone at the end of the hall to my right. It was created by Sir Peter Taylor from Weta Workshops as a monument commemorating the Bomber Command contribution. And the members of the New Zealand Bomber Command Association, veterans, families and our guests are invited to a cup of tea in the meeting room, which is run to the left here, just past the lifts. And our AGM will also be held there at 1:30 this afternoon for those of you who are members. So thank you again for being here, for making the effort, and we wish you all, on behalf of the New Zealand Volunteer Association, a safe journey home.